Recently, I began rewatching Eureka, The Secret City. I knew about this show since my early childhood days. It always aired on this German TV channel called Pro 7 in the morning, so I was able to watch it before going to school. Some years had passed till I came to remember the show again, having finished season 1 and 2. Watching the show during my breakfast times gave me really the nostalgic days of back then, and I would love to review it for you guys and give an idea of how good or bad I argue the show to be and if it is worth your time perhaps. Eureka's story is about the US Marshal Jack Carter escorting his teenage daughter Zoe back to their hometown in where an accident with a dog and a strange encounter leads their car to crash. Thus the pair had to ask the local residents for help and discover the peaceful city of Eureka. Unlike any other city in the USA, this place was built back in the days of Albert Einstein for the world's most intellectual people to work and advance science in all fields for the greater good of mankind. The entire show revolves around one episode stories which occasionally get an extra episode to emphasize its importance to the A-plot. In the first episode, the protagonist, Jack Carter, meets our main character cast and side cast already, consisting of individual personalities, each receiving attention sprinkled throughout the first 2 seasons. As those are single arc, I will title those 2 seasons the Artifact arc, and even in later seasons this cast gets expanded and more information is added to their rich story, never leaving them really dull or without at least the slightest personality expansion or development to the character. As Jack takes up the role of the new sheriff of the city, it reveals its secrets and craziness to Jack, forcing him to solve the daily problems the episodes create with the help of the main characters. In the meta dynamic of the show, Jack plays the outsider, an ordinary human with cunningness, paired with the 2 broad-thinking yet intellectual scientists of the science lab Global Dynamics. Each episode revolves around a new problem in science fantasy/fiction which the show relates more or less to, where the most crazy ideas gets explored and intertwined into the characters' decisions, making the show more or less a character-driven story. The episodes are then structured with the 3-act structure of a setup, confrontation and resolution from which the characters learn and grow/expand. The show does this very well, I have to say, and I personally would argue no episode was really boring. I enjoyed all of them, all entertaining in their own right. Doesn't mean though that some episodes aren't clearly better written than others. The best part is, unlike many shows airing in the same decade back then, Eureka allows its characters to collect the experience from previous episodes and bring them into the new conflicts, to actually keep their expansion or development and not entirely forget it to just fake conflict like earlier day cartoons. The best dynamic, I would argue, come to be between Jack and his daughter Zoe and of the main characters Henry Deacon and Nathan Stark. Henry takes up the role of Jack's best friend in the show and the helping hand in Jack's daily solving of the episode's problem. Nathan in his role is the chef of Global Dynamics for the first season, being not only the third wheel in the love triangle in the show, but also Henry's former student taking a wrong course, thus going against what Henry believes science should be used for and bring forth. So in that, the 3 close up an interesting triangle to create the perfect beats for the story to use. It would lead me to speak about the mentioned actual triangle. The very first episode establishes Jack's crush on Alison Blake, Nathan's ex-wife. The dynamic gets played within this so annoyed cliche of will they, won't they shit I rarely like. And the story is very basic with this too. It does nothing original to turn it into its own trope, just playing it out and fiddling with the viewer to question if Allison chooses Jack or Nathan, which is quite a bit boring and doesn't break anything but fake drama, which by the way also gets parodied by the show on many occasions. The love triangle gets stretched until mid to end season 3. In between we get Jack crushing on 2 other women in season 2, which will be Callie. Regardless, so since in the first arc Ellie and Nathan clearly start to rekindle their love and wanted to even marry again, since both have changed a lot since their former relationship, Jack still whining after Allison is a letdown for me, since Kelly feels like a placeholder instead of an actual relationship, since she is the active person pursuing it, since Jack is more or less a receiving role in it. Even where the aforementioned woman with the most chemistry with Jack appears, has to be written off the show to get to the forced ending of Jack and Allison, despite them having no chemistry at all, except a stable friendship. It's not really something bad, it was not enough for me to just buy it and say, oh yeah, they are meant to be together, or the story is evolving naturally into it. And yes, that is exactly what happens. Of course, decisions like that can have many reasons. Doesn't mean that it was an active writing decision. It could have been that some actors had to go off the show, or there were difficulties between the staffs and the actors. So it could be any reason, but in the end product received this, so I will just criticize it with the experience I gained and my knowledge. Another case of wasted love potential is the story revolving around Henry and his love interest, Kim. She appeared in season 1 in her episode dedicating to the trio with a friend of theirs, stealing Kim's memory since he sinned for her and also stealing her work to be famous. They find that out and solve it all in that episode, which would be good and all, but the writers decided to connect Henry and Kim with the artifact, the main focus of the first 2 seasons' complete overarching plot, leading to the climatic ending on season 1, in which Kim dies due to circumstances involving Nathan's decisions and the third party. Henry created a time paradox to save Kim, resulting in both timelines destroying each other. That stake and conflict was fantastically written. I indeed would argue that. It involves Henry's philosophical conflict clashing with Jack's outer conflict to hinder the timelines from collapsing onto each other. Thus the two have to clash despite their built-up friendship throughout the entire first season, which was quite very wholesome and very well done. It would have stayed as a well-written point in a story for me, wouldn't it be for the biggest problems in this equation: Henry and Kim. Throughout season 1 we barely got any interactions outside of the main episode for the two, never getting to see them live out their relationship afterwards, which being the major theme in that episode ends up being the catalyst for the finale of the season without any emotional attachment to the relationship of both. We know Henry longer than Kim throughout the first seasons, so the writers surely intended to make him the emotional hook in the situation, for I would argue they literally failed. A reason being that we never see Henry be brought up to that point of throwing away stakes at such height to save a love or a friend he sees close. In the finale he says he took the chance knowing it was a risk, not a murder. Yet it seems unbelievable when comparing his previous presentation of his personality to the stakes at hand. Adding the fact of the screen time coming to borderline 0, the climax of the season falls flat and merely lives on the philosophical fight between Jack and Henry and Nathan regarding season 2. That is something I have to praise the show for, as the way Henry finds out the truth is handled way better than the story points reason to start at the beginning overall. Nathan and Henry's relationship already was critical at that point, both having different views on how science should be handled when it comes to revolutionizing mankind, and now this, believing that Nathan was at fault for Kim's death and Henry being stopped by Jack to save Kim, gave that trio the perfect conflict to be solved, and even the relationship with Allison and Nathan was thought of to input into this, by giving his son Kevin a connection to the artifact because he was with Nathan and Kim that day the explosion happened. Allison also had to play against Henry to protect Kevin from the military / the organization DOD. The only thing I hated about that twist was that Kevin is an artist, merely the fact that it is the only explanation we got to why he was able to connect and use the power of the artifact. Throws in a lot of questions like why Nathan wasn't connecting to the artifact. How Kevin got released off that curse, let's say it, is also a second thing I didn't really like, because the theme around the artifact was never really discussed deeper, even though it is the entire A-plot of the first 2 seasons. Like, that shit was built up so mysteriously and dangerous, we barely got anything until it ends the season and opens the conflict for season 2. I mean, not only that, the point with Kevin having the contact with the artifact gets solved by an upcoming Deus Ex technology used for teleportation. So Kevin was just thrown into that, he got teleported away, reconstructed, and suddenly the artifact is gone from his body. I mean, like, wasn't the entire point of the artifact that it was some sort of trans-dimensional object? I mean, it was stated multiple times it survived the fucking big downs of a universe and slipped into the reborn universe that they currently inhabit. I mean, like, it was often stated the energy it produced is transcending everything in their current universe and is hardly in difficulty to be understand. Why can the teleportation of a child just get rid of it? I mean, like, it was never answered, it was never discussed, we just have to accept it. Yeah, but anyways, I mean, like, maybe the writers just wanted to have this mystery still be revolved around the artifact and not give the answers out, to just have the viewers give interpretation of their own to, I don't know, the information and story points would have been helped a lot if we would have gotten a bit more episodes just related to that. Other than these major itchings I had, everything else is just minor plot holes of character decisions and writing choices that could have been handled way better with a bit more thought to it, but it isn't overall something that would just crumble the story apart, so I can definitely ignore them. Characters getting spotlights in several episodes for background personality are handled just quite very well. The world building is developed since a lot of conspiracy theories and unique ideas are used to build the secret world of Eureka. Any crazy idea you can think of is just input into it and explained in a creative and very unique way. I also don't mind the difference in science technicality, since those are the rules of the world of Eureka. Not everything is wrong, there's just slight minor things they added or just made up to just have the logic in the world work. And the internal logic of it just seemed to be applied very well and just works. So the argument of appeal to reality I could just ignore here. Most episodes, especially those coming around the intimate relationships like Jack and his daughter Zoe, get fleshed out a lot. They are written with so much love and care. For example, in season 2 episode 4, cleverly combining the B plot of the episode with the A plot, consisting of Jack's inner and outer conflict of losing his daughter to his ex-wife. And most episodes are really structured and considerate with these in mind, which give everything Eureka builds up to a very unique twist, interesting ideas and execution, as well as the use of CGI to actually show a lot of the cool stuff to lure in the viewer further into the world. You actually can see like all of the strange physical stuff, the tornadoes, the sun actually crashing onto Earth, debris falling from the orbit onto the Eureka city, or a lot of crazy stuff really. They do not falter from using CGIs to just give their vision a solid view, which definitely makes Eureka one of the most unique shows until this very day. And I definitely can argue that this is a must-watch for every science fantasy / science fiction fan out there, or just people who want to enjoy a very crazy, ordinary life in the day of Eureka. With that said, and my little explanation of why I loved the first 2 seasons despite its flaws, I would definitely rate this season 1 and 2 a solid 8 out of 10. This is of course just my personal ranking with the rewatch knowledge I possess. If you enjoyed it, hit the subscribe button, do the usual things, share it, give it a comment if you enjoyed Eureka yourself, or if you didn't enjoy it, and tell me why you did and why you didn't. And overall, please help a little channel grow here by just supporting me if you want to see more of this kind of reviews, and we will see each other into the next seasons of Eureka. Eureka, see ya next time.